Good evening, welcome back to Part 2 Garden. The front garden here is starting to get a little filled in now that we're into the month of June. This garden generally hits its peak in, let's say, late June, early July. And, a few things are done blooming already, but yeah, the real show starts in a few more weeks. But I wanted to point out this one Angelica dahurica here that is now upwards of 5 feet tall and should flower this year. You can see the size of the stalk. This is a biennial, so 2-year life cycle. First year all foliage, second year foliage with flowers, and then hopefully we'll get some seed around the garden and keep this thing going. So there's 2 calamagrostis up here that I want to talk about. The first one, this variegated one here, it's now in full flower. This is El Dorado. Now, most people grow the standard Carl Forester for calamagrostis. This is a little shorter, it's variegated foliage. I like it, it's a nice plant. I still think Carl Forester is better, but nonetheless, it still adds a nice textural element, and the flowers have a nice little pink color to them, which is nice. There's a lily back here. It's very, very tiny, and it's called Tiny Padhai. Over here we have Eryngium blue glitter starting to color up nicely, and there's a tiny little lily flower there. That's Lilium Martagon Arabian Night. And there's another calamagrostis right here, and also variegated. I don't think this is as good as El Dorado, only because the flowers are a little nicer on El Dorado, but this one here is Avalanche. Now that we are in June, we're approaching hydrangea season. I probably have, I would say, upwards of 40 to 50 different hydrangeas here in the garden, so we're going to see some really cool ones coming up here. The hydrangea serrata, tiny tough stuff. Flowers are actually starting to open on it, starting to see some color in the infertile florets on the outside. You can actually see how nice and blue the fertile flowers are. Yeah, this plant's absolute stunner. So I have a couple of cool phylloxerums in the garden. First one here. This is Phylloxerum cayusianum. It's a very dwarf plant. You can see the foliage sits just right above the soil, maybe 1.5 inches tall. And then you get the flower stalks that come up, and they probably sit about maybe 4 inches, 5 inches in height. It's slow spreadly in the garden. It's not like overly aggressive. If you're ever growing some kind of like a miniature garden, this is definitely a plant you want to look out for and get your hands on. Now this other smaller phylloxerum, not quite as tiny, but this is Phylloxerum ichangense. Now this next plant was just given to me this year by a friend of mine, Bridget, who is the queen of aroids. If you don't know what aroids are, go ahead and look that up. And this is Aracema consanguineum, and the cultivar is Poseidon. Now what's cool about this one is the foliage has that nice silver band down the center. So, and down here is your flower, your Spath and Spadix. There's this Bergenia here. I don't know if I've talked about this before, but this is Ripple Effect. This was an introduction from Ed Bowen up at ESIMA. It's a really, really nice Bergenia. I do like Bergenia for foliar interest in the garden. Flowers are nice too, but I think it's more about the leaves with these. As you can see, the rippled edges, hence the name Ripple Effect. And if you're getting close enough, you can see the hairs on the leaves. So it's a nice little fuzzy texture to it. Don't remember the exact parentage of this. I think this may have been crossed with Bergenia Pacumbus, and I'll hopefully show you a cultivar of that when I get around to the back. So across the pond here, the Daphne Summer Ice, still going strong. This is like the sister cultivar to Daphne Transatlantica Blafra, or Eternal Fragrance trade name. I think it's, equally as good as Eternal Fragrance. The only difference is with Summer Ice is you get the little bit of white banding around the outside of the leaves. So if you like variegated plants over your normal green leaf Daphne, well, this one might be a better fit for you. See the Clematis Rigucci really starting to take over now, this Weeping Perodia, and almost climbing up into the Acer Cotonoito. But it won't damage the plant, it won't cause any harm to the Perodia or the Acer. So I let it go. I have this cool salvia here, Salvia rhinocina. So, it almost has the appearance of like a giant Salvia guarnetica black and blue, or Amistad. Big leaves, big stems, and flowers. I've had this plant in the garden now for, I would say, 4 years, and it's been reliable. It is a zone 7, so when I first planted it, it probably was a little bit on the tender side, but it's been doing well for me. So there's 2 plants here. So this grass here, this is, well, it used to be called Nacella tenuissima, and I believe now it's the Stipa tenuissima. They've done a little name change on it. Mexican feather grass. It's a really nice accent. It's very short. It's only about maybe a foot to 15 inches tall. And look at that breeze. It's very short-lived. You kind of have to let it seed around in the garden. This is not where the original plant was planted, nor was that one. So I'm going to let them kind of seed around and kind of go where they want, edit as needed. And then this flower right beside it, this is Marina longifolia. As I mentioned before on a couple other videos, that I really like plants with spiky leaves. Even though I hate wearing gloves in the garden, I do like the plants that have a little bit of a natural barrier to them. But cool plant, worth trying. Definitely needs good sun exposure and good drainage, especially during the winter. And I'll take a walk down to the back. So a couple plants I have back here of interest right now. There's this Pennisetum. This is Carly Rose. Now, a lot of people might be a little weary of planting Pennisetum in the garden because they have a bad rep of being a little bit invasive. I can't remember if Carly Rose is a sterile cultivar or not, but on the basis of just being careful, I do deadhead this once I start seeing the color fade from the flowers. But, you know, the backlit flowers are really nice on this plant. This Eryngium Borgatii flowering finally. And then around the other side here, I have my Eryngium Big Blue. And this, I would say, is my favorite of all the Eryngiums. Big Blue, I think, has the best color. It's very sturdy, it's reliable. It pretty much just needs full sun and good drainage, and your plant's gonna come back. It's actually a really cool plant here for dry conditions. This is a penstemon, actually. This is Penstemon pinifolius. Cultivar name is escaping me, but really, really cool plant if you have a nice dry site. At work, we actually have some growing on one of our green roofs, and it does just fine. I have this nice tall Phylloxera here. This is Ellen. The Nymphophia Gladness still looking really nice. This is probably the best year by far I've had for this. And then one more plant. We're going to show the Phylloxera lucidum, which is very yellow. There in the background you can see the Calamagrostis Carl Forrester. So thanks for tuning in. Looking forward to show all the hydrangeas and things coming very soon. Do me a favor and give me a subscribe and a like if you like this content, this video, and I'll keep making them. See you in a few days.